Chapter 3. For a moment, stories of my cousin, Mibs Beaumont's 13th birthday stowaway journey on a big pink bus flashed through my mind. Sarah Jane didn't look any older than me. I wondered if it was a habit of teenage girls to run away and hide themselves in other people's vehicles. For my sister's sake, I hoped not. Sarah Jane held a finger to her lips in warning. Knowing that she was one of the few people who'd seen me wreck stuff in Sundance, I threw a blanket over her before the rest of my family appeared to get their bags. I'd already pinched Fedora until she promised not to tell. But I couldn't guess what this girl might blurt if Mom and Dad discovered her. "I'll get our stuff." My vocal cords stretched and snapped over the words, like rubber bands pulling too tight. "Ledge," Mom began. "No, really, I'm happy to get everything." Untapped manners surfaced from some dark and dusty place as I herded my family away. Mom gave me a suspicious look. "Let the boy be, Dinah," said Dad. "If Ledge wants to carry the luggage, more power to him. Don't forget the cooler, son. Just, try not to break it." Dad's words cut me to my sneakers, but I had bigger worries, as Dad nodded toward the cooler. I jumped to block his view of Sarah Jane's green Converse low tops jutting from behind it, hoping, too, that Dad wouldn't notice the girls' collection of papers, where they lay next to our bags. I could see now that every sheet was a single-sided photocopy of a homemade newspaper, each with the same bold headline. "Selma Witzel abducted after bake sale. Trades strawberry rhubarb pie to alien for freedom." The words sparked my curiosity. Who would have guessed that aliens liked pie? I suddenly wished aliens would abduct me, delivering me to some other planet where I might not feel so awkward and ham-handed. But no, not even aliens would want me, I thought. I'd probably break their spaceship. I shook myself to clear my head, then flipped the 2-bit tabloids over. Dad hadn't noticed Sarah Jane's shoes or her cheesy papers. I watched him steer Mom toward Uncle Audrey's big log house, where Fedora was already skipping up the steps to greet the rest of the family inside. As soon as the coast was clear, I yanked the blanket off of our uninvited guest. "What are you doing?" I hissed, keeping my voice low. "How did you get in here?" The girl's face relaxed into a self-satisfied smile. "I'm a news hound, cowboy. I go wherever I smell a story." She swung her legs around and climbed out of the van. Then she held out a hand for me to shake. "Sarah Jane Cabot's the name, but you can call me SJ. It's what my friends would call me if I had any." I wasn't interested in becoming this girl's friend. I already had friends. At least, I did, before my savvy came along and broke my life. I reached past Sarah Jane, ignoring her hand, grabbing the handle of Mom and Dad's suitcase instead, cussing as it broke loose. But Sarah Jane didn't notice my snub, or flinch at my language. She was too busy looking around. "So this is the Flying Cattle Heart." The girl gave an admiring whistle. Built of logs, but no mere cabin, the O'Connell home looked like the lodge of an outdoorsman prince. "I'd never been allowed up here before," Sarah Jane added. She pulled a small spiral notepad from her pocket. Its narrow pages were warped and wrinkled, like the entire thing had been dropped overboard of an expedition for a big fish story. "This place is triple wow deluxe." I followed the girl's gaze as she looked around. We stood in a bowl of earth that had been carefully sculpted by my grandpa Bamba, back when he had the strength to move mountains. The place still looked Wyoming wild, but now it was crazily patterned and molded, like somehow Grandpa had mixed up the carved swords and jutting stones of Machu Picchu in South America with the curved, thickly sliced, stair-stepping terraces of the rice paddies in China, then covered it in sage green, sandstone red, and straw bale gold. He'd even changed the course of the river tributary, to bring sparkling silver blue water through the ranch. I knew Grandpa hadn't moved so much as a flower pot full of potting soil in years, yet something deep inside me stirred, as I imagined how cool it must have felt to create something this awesome. A bee buzzed past me, heading for the large garden planted between the log house and the barn. The red and white barn was already dressed up for the evening's party. Even the windmill behind it was decorated in streamers. Another barn stood by the river, a mirror image of the first, except for the roof, which was made of metal beams and glass. Autry's second barn was an insect conservatory, a terrarium for giants. Inside the bunkhouse, a person could have seriously close encounters with stick insects as thin as straws and as long as a man's forearm, and Goliath beetles, so big they sounded like helicopters when they took flight. There were butterflies, too. Butterflies galore. This place was a zoo, or a nightmare. Maybe my savvy had a bright side after all. I'd never been a big fan of bugs, of giant bugs, so I hadn't been inside my uncle's conservatory since I was little. My new talent gave me a less embarrassing excuse to stay away. Taking in the scenery, the two barns and the windmill streamers, Sarah Jane looked ready to crash my cousin's wedding and take notes. "You shouldn't be here," I growled through clenched teeth. "You're going to get me in trouble. How did you get inside our van?" I demanded again. "Ask your sister," Sarah Jane answered. "She practically invited me in, leaving the door open in the way she did. After hearing her tell Willie about the big shindig here tonight, I figured I had to come see it for myself. Weddings are big news, you know," she gestured with her notebook. "Weddings always sell a gazillion papers. But I barely got myself stowed before you climbed in, cowboy." She paused, looking me over like I was a sorry six-legged calf, not a cowboy. Resisting the urge to run, I tried not to squirm beneath Sarah Jane's steady gaze. "That was quite a spill you took in town." Sarah Jane flipped to a blank page in her notepad. "I've never seen one kid cause so much damage. Can I ask you a few questions about what happened?" No way," I sputtered, not wanting to discuss what had gone down in Sundance with her or anyone else. Not now, not ever. Without looking at Sarah Jane, I wedged Mom and Dad's bags under my arm and slung Fedora's tote over my shoulder. "You have to go now!" I grabbed the handles of the cooler, trying to carry all the bags at once, feeling like a pack mule descending into the Grand Canyon on roller skates, everything going downhill, fast. "I think I'm going to stay," Sarah Jane replied, as if simply saying so made it flower-picking fine. "Well, you can't," I shot back. "Why not?" "Because I say so," I answered, wishing I had a morsel of Mom's talent. "Come on, cowboy. I promise to blend into the background. You won't even see me. I'm stealthy." I snorted, thinking of my cousin Samson. "Trust me, I'd see you. I actually know people I can't see, and you are not one of them." The corners of the girl's mouth fought to stay straight. "I like you, cowboy," she said. "You're funny." Then she stopped smiling and narrowed her eyes. "Wait, really? Tell me more about these people you can't see." Sarah Jane slipped a small nub of pencil out of one of her braids, licking the tip of the graphite once before pressing it to the paper. I looked again at the newspapers in the back of the van, shaking my head over the paper's title. "The Sundance Scuttlebutt, your #1 source for news of the strange." Sarah Jane obviously had good instincts to steal a ride here. "Forget I said anything," I answered. "And stop calling me cowboy. My name's Ledge." As I spoke, a sudden gust of wind burst from the front door of the log house, coming from inside and blowing out. I knew exactly who was causing the whirlwind of indoor weather. Even outside the house, Beaumont's gales were strong enough to set the windmill spinning behind the barn, making streamers flap and fly. Sarah Jane's newspapers flew from the back of the van. Her braids whipped in the wind like 2 lengths of rope trying to lasso her escaping stories. The screen door opened and slammed shut repeatedly, rousing a black, wolf-like dog from a patch of shade up on the porch. My uncle's dog, Bitsy, barked once, then yawned, a mouthful of teeth, wagging her tail as she caught sight of me. Bitsy was accustomed to unusual phenomena. She limped onto the ranch as a tiny 3-legged pup years ago, and never left. But even if it didn't bother Bitsy, the unusual indoor-outdoor wind reminded me that this wasn't Indiana. Here, I was completely surrounded by unexplainable people. The kind of people who would be real headline news in Sarah Jane's cockamamie paper, or any other newspaper for that matter. We We weren't an ordinary family. This wasn't going to be a normal wedding. Thinking of the family rules, I turned to Sarah Jane. Tell me what it's going to take to make you leave. Okay, that's the end of the chapter. Sorry, I kept on losing the page and it kept on flipping up. Okay.